Good morning. Well, Aaron is not here, obviously. He had his shoulder kind of chopped off and reattached. So, I wonder if they shorten it. His arms are so long anyway. That would be kind of cool. But all the reports say he's doing well. I'm a horrible friend. I've not really checked on him, so that's just how I am. And he probably wouldn't want me there anyway because I tend to make fun of people that are altered, if you know what I mean. So what we're going to do today is, am I? Okay. What we're going to do today is talk about, well, we've moved to the New Testament. Yay! Woo! I do believe he preached that whole series just for me because I was the one that always argued that, yeah, we don't really need it. And then when I started reading about it, I was like, wow, it does kind of point to all the right places. So I learned a lot and I appreciate it, but I do love the New Testament because I just love talking about Jesus and everything that he does because he's a pretty cool guy. So today we're going to be in Luke 15, the whole chapter. And I'll give you a little backstory here. Luke, during this time in Luke, Jesus is in his full-blown ministry. Things are rocking and rolling. He's moving toward Jerusalem slowly. And he's stopping amongst little towns and townships and teaching while he is on the way. And his ministry has started to attract some attention. He started to, people started listening to him, and it's like, we really like this guy. And so people started showing up. So as he's traveling, we tend to think about, and all the stories and little cartoons that we see as a kid, is Jesus and the 12 apostles just walking around all alone. It's not like that. So there are Jesus and his 12 apostles, and they're kind of like his core group, but the followers of Jesus this time was growing, and it was getting a little out of hand. So if you was crowd control, you didn't like it. And while he would go, he would teach in this one town, and right before he got ready to go, some of his followers would go to the next town and say, Jesus is coming. And kind of prep the town that somebody was coming. So even more people would show up. So imagine it, if you will, if Jesus was to come to Cherokee, North Carolina. All right? Remember back in the day we had those Harley rallies where everybody hated how many people would show up? Traffic was horrible. Imagine that times 100. It's kind of like Elvis and the Beatles showing up at the same time in the same place. Just everybody was there. So you're going to attract a little bit of attention. And while he was doing that, he would teach, and then he would go have these dinner parties. He would have dinner parties with some not so welcome people at times, but he would also have dinner parties with the Pharisees and Sadducees. And there were two different reasons behind these dinner parties. One of them was to show his love and inclusion, and the other one was to, hey, you're not really doing right. But he didn't do it that way. He was a little more, he hid his words of condemnation to people at times. So, she almost made it. But all the crowds were there, and he was teaching. Well, actually, he was having dinner. And then we get into Luke 15 here. He was having a little dinner party, and all these people are around. He's having his little private dinner party, but there's people waiting to catch a sight of Jesus, so they can just have a little glimpse of him. And they've drawn the attention of the Pharisees. And the Pharisees are, well, they're kind of like the people you don't mess with. They're the people that's got the power. So they can get to the front of the crowd. All they do is show their robes, and everybody's like, oh, I'm going back up. So they get up to the front of the crowd and kind of peek in the window and see who Jesus is eating with. He looks at him and he says, and the Pharisees get kind of upset. They said, And they started making comments, and it's like, he's eating with tax collectors and sinners and ladies of the night. What's this dude, man? And a lot of that stems from some of the verses in the Old Testament. Like Psalms 26:1 says, I do not sit with the worthless or associate with hypocrites. I hate a crowd of evildoers, and I do not sit with the wicked. I wash my hands in innocence, and I go around your altar, Lord, raising my voice in thanksgiving and telling your wondrous works. So they were saying stuff like this. He shouldn't be doing that. He shouldn't be eating with those people. Those are not our people. Jesus heard him. Got a little, let's say, triggered. That's a good word for nowadays. He got a little triggered. So he come out and started telling parables. Because he don't come out and say, how dare you? He teaches. Everything's a teachable moment. So he starts telling parables. There's 3 parables he tells like back to back. And the first one is the parable of the lost sheep. It's Luke 15:4-7. And it's, I'll read it to you real quick. What man among you who has 100 sheep and loses one of them does not leave the 99 in the open field and go after the lost one until he finds it? When he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders, and coming home, he calls his friends and neighbors together, saying to them, rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep. I tell you, in the same way, there will be more joy in heaven for one sinner who repents over the 99 righteous people who do not need repentance. He didn't say do not repent. He said do not need repentance. All right? There's a little bit of play on the words right there. Some people think, he's not talking to me. I hope Sister Sarah's listening over there. Hope nobody named Sarah in here. Didn't offend you. It's just the first name that popped in my head. So he's talking to the people that are being a little overly righteous about things. So going out to find this sheep, I always imagine it being like, they said throw it over his shoulder. I went camping one time and my truck broke down and I had to and my dog was with me and my daughter. My daughter carried donuts, these little fried donuts. We so happy to get those. She was holding them like this. My dog was less than a year old, long, gangly, weighed about 90 pounds, did not want to walk the 2 miles to my campsite where my truck had broke down. So I picked this little puppy up and threw her over my shoulders, and walked like I was carrying that sheep. Crazy thing about it is when we got to the campsite, my daughter had not moved her hands from those donuts, but the whole box had slid out the end, so she was carrying an empty box, and we don't know where the donuts went. So sad. But yeah, I mean, what we're looking at here is he's talking about leaving the whole group to find one sheep, leaving the whole congregation to find that one person, all right? And it's a lost person. Now, why are they lost? There's a couple things going on, or a couple things could be happening. It could be they've never known Jesus. They just don't know. Or it could be people that know Jesus that have kind of backslidden and just lost their way a little bit. All right? Why did this happen? It could be sick, they could be hurt, or they just could be, for lack of a better word, a little dumb about it, not have been educated on what's going on. We get lost. Everybody will at some point in time, or has been lost. And if it wasn't for the fact that Jesus is who Jesus is, we wouldn't have been found. So Jesus is talking about leaving everyone to go find that one person. And during that, when that person is found, rejoice. Everybody. We party with everybody at this point in time. Because we go out there and we find that one person, we bring them in the church. It's not that we're just not interested in their coming in. We should celebrate when that happens, and we should celebrate with that person that, hey, you were lost, but now you're found. And what we think about is like, how do we find that one sheep? out of the 99. Well, if you look at today's age and how everything are going today, it's not hard to find a lost sheep out there. There are plenty of them out there. And how do we throw them over our shoulders and carry them back? I mean, you could technically do that, but you might catch a charge. But how do we do that? How do we convince them to come in? How do we carry them home, so to speak? His main one is what Aaron says every single time, is share the gospel with them. Just tell them. Or just look at them and say, how you doing today? And mean it. And want to hear an honest answer, not just, I'm okay. That honest answer in that conversation you have right then, even if you don't even get a chance to say anything about Jesus or the Gospels, is the love that Jesus is asking us to show. All right? And then we celebrate. Next, he talks about a coin, a lady and a coin. Luke 15:8. It says, or what a woman who has 10 silver coins, if she lost one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, search the house, and search it carefully until she finds it. And when she finds it, she calls her neighbors and her friends together, saying, rejoice with me because I have found my lost silver coin. In the same way, there will be joy in the presence of God and angels over one sinner who repents. This one throws me off a little bit because it's 10 silver coins. A lady lost a coin. To me, and living in the world we live in today, didn't seem like a big deal. I mean, it's just a coin. But if we put it in the context of the time that we're in, is that this is a lady who we don't know, could be a widow, but there's 10 silver coins. During that day, during that time, you may get one coin for a day's worth of work. And a day's worth of work is not our lovely 8-hour day. It's sun up to sundown work. And just to throw a little another twist on it, women weren't working back then. They basically weren't allowed to. So we got to think of why these coins. It could be her dowry. To this woman, these coins are her worth. This is her value, is those coins. And so the dowry is given during a wedding ceremony, and it's kind of, unfortunately, what you paid for your wife, basically. And so then you knew exactly the monetary value of your worth then. And it was fairly important to keep track of it, because if something happened to your husband, it's probably the only thing you had at that point in time, especially if you didn't have any family that would step in to take care of you. So what we're looking at is this woman's actual worth. She had lost 1/10 of it. And it reminds me of a movie. I never watched John Wayne movies until me and my wife got together, and she loves a movie called The Quiet Man. And it's John Wayne goes to Ireland and gets a wife, and when she gets married, she's like, I want my dowry, but her brother did not want him to be her husband, and so he wouldn't give it to her. So the whole show is about this lady's worth and him fighting for her honor to get, well, number one, he don't realize what the worth of the dowry is, and but it ends. If you never watched it, watch it. It's a great old movie. It's in kind of like that Technicolor weird color, but basically it ends with this huge fight, and the woman is just saying, no, don't, but she's loving every single minute of it because her man's fighting for her and trying to win her value back. So these coins, there's a couple things the lady does that shows how important this coin is. First off, she sweeps the floors, all the floors. And during that time of day, she lights a lamp too, so it's dark. These rooms that they typically stayed in had no windows, so when it got dark, dark. And so she's sweeping the floor. and then usually dirt floors. So she's cleaning everything she's already cleaned once a day. I can imagine sitting back and seeing her like moving the furniture and kicking stuff around and just like frustratingly cleaning stuff, because I mean, I've lost my keys before and I get a little frantic when it's time to go to find my keys. But then she lights a lamp. At that time, lamps and lamp oil was a commodity. They were expensive. She probably spent more money lighting the lamp to look for the coin than what the coin was worth. So imagine that. I'm going to spend more money than what I'm looking for is worth because it's that important to me at the time. So this coin was a pretty big thing. So knowing your worth is a huge deal. And that's what Jesus is trying to point out at this point in time. All right, we're going to search. We're going to do everything we possibly can to find this one lost coin. And then when we find it, we're going to tell everybody in the world that we found it, because what once was lost was now found. All right, so when we rejoice with Jesus, and in this one, it says Jesus and the angels. Right at the end of it, let me read the last part of that passage again. In the same way, there will be joy in the presence of God, in presence of God's angels over one sinner who repents. It says, joy in the presence of God's angels. All of the heavens will rejoice when somebody is found. It's not like, yay, one person, or just God himself, which would be good enough for me. It's everybody. Every angel in heaven will rejoice when the lost coin, which is us, is found. And I also like to point out something kind of neat. It was silver coins too. They weren't gold coins. So right then there's a little bit less value to them. But God sees value in everybody. He sees so much value in you that he'll go out of his way to look for you. He sees so much value in you that he'll spend more time that is actually not necessary, but he'll spend more money than you're worth. Didn't mean to sound harsh right then. But the willingness for God to keep searching, and the willingness for God to not turn his back on you in your times of need is huge. And so much so, he sent his son to die for us. He sent his son to live with us. He sent his son to be total human with us, to hang out with us and to pay our way in. He's the one that bought our tickets. Remember your value. If you've never known Jesus, he still loves you. If you've never known, or if you've been saved and you're backsliding, Jesus still loves you. If you've never turned, if you've never heard about him, he still loves you. If you were a Christian and something happened and you turned your back on the church and walked out, he still loves you the whole time. You have value. Jesus knows your value, and he's willing to pay the ultimate price for your value. So now, we get to something pretty interesting. I like to think of Jesus sitting there just like, because none of the tables had chairs, they all sit on the floor, so he's kind of like lounging out. And he's told his two parables to the whole group right here. Pharisees are listening outside, and then I like to think he just sat up, like, and popped the olive in his mouth and looked. You know when you're trying to speak to the whole crowd, but you want to actually speak to one person, like I'm going to like stare at Birch right here. And I'm talking to the whole crowd, but Birch knows I'm talking to him. I like to think he did this. He just like sat up and looked right out the window at the Pharisees and told his last parable. So he's really got the Pharisees' attention now, because he's talking about these people are lost. These people are worth it. These people that I'm hanging out with have value. So he looks at the Pharisees, and this is all speculation. I wasn't there. And and tells his last parable. Now, this is a long one. I'm going to paraphrase this one. I'm not going to read it all because after a while I start stuttering through the words. He starts talking about a man with two sons. And this man's a farmer, like most people in that time. And apparently he's a little well off. But he has two sons, and he has an older son and a younger son. And the youngest son says, I want my money. I want my inheritance. And I don't want to be around you anymore. At that time, well, even now, most of the time, you don't get your inheritance until that person that actually has it passes away. So as the young boy just basically said, hey, Dad, I want you dead. I don't want to be around anymore. I don't want to be associated with you. Give me my inheritance so I can go do what I want to with it. It's a pretty big deal, especially if you are the Pharisees sitting outside. I can see them now. I need to go home and get my pearls. So I'll be clutching my pearls when he said that. Because a rebellious son in those days, there's actually verses in there. In Deuteronomy 21:18, it said, a son could be stoned to death for this. If a man has a stubborn or rebellious son who does not obey his father, listen, y'all youngins out there, who does not obey his father or mother and does not listen to them after they discipline him, his father and mother can take hold of him and bring him to the elders of the city, to the gates of his hometown, and say to the elders of his city, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He does not obey us. He's a glutton and a drunkard. And then all the men of the city will stone him to death. You must purge the evil from you. All Israel will hear and be afraid. Pretty harsh. Yeah. So you can imagine dragging Caleb down to the town square and just throwing rocks at him till he's dead. He was never a rebellious kid. But that's what it's saying. That son said, I wish you were dead. And he's going to do exactly what that in Deuteronomy said he's going to do. And that's why the Pharisees at the time probably went, what? And because what happens next is the father said, okay. He split everything in half, sold off half of it, and gave the son the money. So after that, the young son, goes off, starts gallivanting around, wine, women, and song, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, doing everything that you probably it's not supposed to do in that point in time, and having the time of his life during that time. Having the time. Living it up. But like always, morning comes, and debts are to be paid. He had to pay all the bills. And we all know that when you run out of money, you typically run out of all your friends too. And then something bad happened. It was a famine started happening. And so couldn't find work, couldn't find food, couldn't find, and had no friends because he had no money because everybody was just hanging out with him for his money. So he took a job doing probably one of the worst things a Jewish man could do, is working on a pig farm. Pigs were not the best animal to be working with. They were considered unclean, and he was feeding them, basically. And he was so hungry, he was looking at the slop that he was throwing out. Has anybody ever worked on a pig farm around here? I have. And it says he was looking at the slop thinking, I could eat this because I'm hungry. I've slopped hogs before. Just the smell would turn you away really quick. But he was so hungry, he was eating pig slop. And then it dawned on him, I've got a dad. His servants eat way better than this. His servants have a warm bed. His servants have food. His servants have a roof over their head, and he treats them well. I can go home and be a servant. I won't even ask be a son. I'm just going to go home and see if he'll let me be a servant. So have we ever had a really hard conversation that we had to have or made somebody really mad and we were wrong and had to apologize to them? I don't know, a few days before you knew he was going to run into this person, you just rehearsing that conversation in your head over and over and over and over again, just to determine what you're going to say. Sitting there going, oh yeah, okay, and just trying to go. It's just me, I guess, but keep going over and over, and that's what he's doing. He's coming up with how he's going to apologize. Well, not apologize, just say, can I just be a servant in your house? You can disown me as a son. So he makes the decision to go home. And on his way home, his father, there's a famine going on, so his father thinks his son, he was just probably sitting there wondering, my son make it through the famine? I don't know. Probably thinking he was dead, because a lot of people die during famines. So the father's sitting there looking out on the horizon and sees his son walking. And what's the dad do? The dad does something out of the ordinary for the time. He takes off running and meets his son way before he ever gets to the house. He runs to meet him. He don't wait for him to get there. He knows he's coming. He goes and gets him. And that's important here in a little bit. So he goes and gets him, and the son starts to do his apology that he's rehearsed in his head so many times, and then dad blows it all out of water and says, get up, here's the robe, here's my robe, here's my ring, put on some shoes, come to the house, we're going to have a party. And just think of it. We're walking down a road, and it's not the road Jesus wants us on. It's not where we're needing to be. We're out there doing everything that the prodigal son is doing. All right? And we're just strutting along and realizing that no matter how good we got it, everything's still turning to pig slop. Right? Everything is going bad. So we know in the back of our head that the Father is there and we have a dad. So we decide to come home. The moment we decide to come home, the moment we decide to repent. Now, repent means 180, not 360, because that means you're going the same way. 180. The moment we turn around, Jesus is standing right there. We don't have to walk the road back. He has come running to us at that point in time. He is there. As soon as we turn around, we don't have to walk that road back. We may have to make amends for some of the stuff that we did on that road. But that whole time, Jesus is standing by our side, holding our hand and helping us along at that point in time, giving us the strength and the right things to do during then. The moment we turn around, we don't have to walk the road home alone. And everybody's rejoicing. The moment we turn around, heavens celebrate. Everybody's happy. There's no, why is he here? But wait, there may be some. When we get there, when he gets home, the brother, been out in the field working all day, comes walking home, and you can hear the partying going on. He's like, what's going on? Whose birthday is it? Why they do this? And he walks in and he sees his brother there wearing the robe, wearing the ring, eating the calf that they've been saving for a special occasion, and he gets mad. He turns around and says, no, and just walks off. I could see him like just throwing his hands up and walking outside. So I ain't doing this, and just like leaving. So he's getting mad because his brother come home. He's getting mad because they're having a party for him. He's like, why? So the father comes running out and says, what's wrong? Your brother's back. Ain't you happy? And it's, no. No, I'm not. You know what he did to you, Dad? He wanted you to die. He took half your stuff and just wasted it. And you're going to act like none of that ever happened? What's wrong with this picture? I'm here every day. I'm here doing the work. When's the last time we had a party because I'm here? You don't appreciate me being around like that. And the father said, greatest thing. I can see him now putting his hand on his shoulder and just shaking his head. He goes, you've been with me the whole time. All that I have is yours. You've not taken advantage of it at all. We could have celebrated every day because you're here all the time anyway. But you're here with me upset because somebody else gets to come with me. There's enough of me to go around. There's some big things here. The prodigal son, it's my favorite story. I absolutely love it. And I loved it for many reasons. I took off a long time ago. And when I'd come home, my sister-in-law would always call me, oh, the prodigal son has returned. Because she always said, my mama loved me best, like the Smothers Brothers. Y'all young people got to look it up. He's pretty cool with a yo-yo. So I always liked that comment. It's supposed to be hateful to me, but I always enjoyed it. And we'd always have a good time when I come home. But there's so much to unpack in this parable. Number one, you've got the younger son just doing everything wrong. Every single thing that you can possibly think of to do wrong, he did it. And when he was welcomed back, everything was forgiven immediately, and we had a party. And then the little last part, which a lot of people don't ever talk about, is the son that stayed. He's ungrateful, being in there, doing the work, but maybe not really having his father in his heart. He's doing the work because he's obligated to. He's doing the work because it's what it's expected of him. He's doing the work to maybe play the part, to walk the walk. He's in the church on Sundays, but that's the only day he's hearing anything. That animosity during that time is thick. It is sad to think that there's people here, well, maybe not here, but there's people in the world that get upset when other people come to Jesus or do well. I work in substance abuse and HR substance abuse. I do all kinds of stuff, but my main job is substance abuse. And I see a lot of times people are actually doing well. They're in recovery and doing everything they need to be. They're pretty solid. Life's going great. And you hear outside, why is he doing this? There's always that little bit of, you know, how he used to be. And you never, ever, ever get away from that stigma that you have because of the past life that you led. Even now, I don't tell people this a lot, that I'm a preacher. I don't, because the nature of my job, sometimes it pushes people away because they've been hurt by the church quite severely at times, and sometimes it just makes people stop listening to me. But when I do, I get a look, like a little double take. And And it's not because I'm out there being crazy and stuff. It's because they don't expect it from me. And the ones that actually know me from my past think that. What? Really? You? I'm like, yeah, who'd have thunk it? I'm shocked too. It was like, I didn't really want to be. It's kind of like Aaron just put a mic in my hand and said, do it. So I understand those stigmas that come along with that and the animosity that comes along. So what are we trying to say here with this one? Whoa, I outran my notes bad. Salvation is for everybody. It's not for the people who are doing absolutely perfect. Well, it is, but it's for everybody. It's for the people who are doing absolutely perfect, but it's also for the people who struggle on a daily basis. It's for the people who fall off the wagon. It's for the people who struggle with temptations out there. It's for those people who struggle with many, many different things. The salvation is given. All you have to do is accept who Jesus is and believe it in your heart and turn around. And he's standing right there. And then you have rejoicing in heaven. Now, I want to tell you a little story that kind of sums this up in my life today. 2 years ago, I have two daughters. None of my family is here today. Just weird things happened. My daughters are out of town on a camping trip. My wife had to, she's on call at the nursing home, and she had to work this morning. She didn't realize I was preaching this morning either until yesterday. But I have two 12-year-old daughters. When they were 10 years old, we decided, all right, we're going to brave it and get them a cell phone. Daddy advice, that's too young. Don't do that. But 12 years old, going to get them a cell phone. Now, the interesting thing about my daughters is they're 21 days apart. 12-year-old daughters, 21 days apart. The labor was terrible. Just kidding. They're stepdaughters. They're stepsisters. But, my wife's going to kill me now. But they're 21 days apart. So we didn't want to give Quay, who's the older one by 21 days, a cell phone and have him like rub it in Corinne's face for 21 days. So we made this little deal. We're going to split the difference in the 21 days. And like a week and a half or 2.5 weeks or something like that, give them both their phones at the same time. Well, it didn't work that way. My daughter kind of freaked out, so she got her phone just a touch bit early. And when it come to her birthday, it come to Corinne's birthday later on in that month, we had sit down and gave her her phone and her birthday presents and everything. And I'm look over in the corner, and my daughter's over there with a sour look on her face. And I'm like, what's going on with you? And she's like, I didn't get nothing. It's not your birthday. She's like, but man, she got all this stuff and I didn't get anything. It's not your birthday. I said, your birthday was 21 days ago. You've already had the party. You've already had the gifts. All right? Sometimes we have to act like 12-year-olds and realize that birthdays are a different day, and not everybody gets a gift on one person's birthday. So with that, like everybody to bow their heads, every head bowed, every eye closed.